Emily, your everyday light worker, hip hop litigator, lawyer, again, talking about sexual harassment. So, this is a multi part series. I've lost track of what um, count we're on, but a multi level series where we're talking about all the different components of sexual harassment and what you can do to protect yourself. Now, some employers do protect against sexual harassment and they have an internal complaint procedure that you can utilize if you have been not only a victim of sexual harassment but any kind of violation of the EEO laws. So the EEO laws, there are several. So there's Title 7, which protects people on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, and religion. And then we have the Age Discrimination and Employment Act, which protects people over a certain age from discrimination in the workplace. We have the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that's one of the most complicated EEO laws because it gives protections to people with disabilities, but it's really, really complicated. So we'll get into that later, not today, because like I said, it's one of the most complicated EEO laws. But whenever you're feeling like you're being discriminated on any of those bases, on age, race, gender, religion, national origin, color, anything like that, there's usually a complaint. The employer, if it's large enough, it's going to have a complaint procedure that you can utilize to complain about that. With the feds, it's a very, very, very comprehensive complaint procedure with informal and formal parts to it, and you can even end up in a court type situation with the feds. And I've done videos on that, and I'll do some more videos on that because there seems to be an interest among federal employees on that. But when you have a good internal complaint prevention procedure in place, these are some things that you will be in place and that lets you know that the complaint procedure is in fact a real thorough and ethical complaint procedure, because a lot of times these complaint procedures are bullshit. I'm sorry, but they are. The people who run them, they have no idea what they're doing, and they don't. If they don't have these kind of components, then you know you're dealing with a compromised complaint reporting procedure. So, a good complaint, internal complaint prevention procedure, is going to encourage reporting, and it's going to have an internal complaint resolution program encourages employees to come forward and report incidents of sexual harassment as well as other discrimination. And when the individuals have confidence in the process, they're more likely to report, preventing harassment from going unaddressed or escalating to a point where it just gets out of control. A good complaint procedure is going to have timely intervention. The intervention is going to be quick. As soon as the person reports the complaint, action is going to be taken immediately. That's important because, again, if immediate action isn't taken, the complaint will sort of escalate because there will be a lot of rumors around it. So, timely intervention by providing a designated process for reporting the program enables prompt intervention in harassment cases. Addressing incidents early can prevent them from becoming more severe or widespread, so it's important. Confidentiality. A good complaint program is going to have confidential reporting. So many of the programs offer confidential reporting options, allowing the victims to report without fear of retaliation or breaches of this privacy. And this confidentiality is critical in encouraging reporting. It can be difficult. It can be difficult. As hard as you try to keep the complaint confidential, people do talk. So even the best meaning people who are overseeing this complaint process have a difficult time keeping the complaint confidential, but it can be done. And as long as the promise is there, you have less fear of retaliation because they're going to be quick. If there's any kind of retaliation, you can go back and say, hey, I'm experiencing retaliation, and there's going to be a quick response to that in a good reporting, a good internal complaint program. So I've been a part of good internal complaint programs. I've overseen them. I've developed them. So I know that when you have a good program in place, that confidentiality is very is something that is taken very seriously. And when people are abusing that, there are consequences for that. Like when people are talking about the complaint and they shouldn't be, there's consequences for that, and that stops the talking about the complaint. Um, Protection from retaliation. A robust complaint program includes protections against retaliation for individuals who report harassment. This assurance is essential in ensuring that victims can report without fear of adverse consequences. A good internal complaint program is going to have a thorough investigation. So, an effective program mandates thorough and impartial investigations into reported incidents. Now, the feds, for example, are really good. They have, all kind of procedures in place to make sure that the complaints get investigated by a third party. So it is pretty. The investigator is pretty impartial because the investigator is brought in from the outside, and those are the best kind of investigators. Investigators who are brought in from the outside, they have no bone in it, because they don't work there. If the investigation is being conducted by someone who actually works within the organization, there's going to be some biases there, but some people can't check their biases at the door if they've been trained to do so. So a thorough investigation is crucial in determining the validity of the claims and taking the appropriate action. So thorough investigations are really important to the organization being in legal compliance. So an internal complaint resolution programs helps organizations comply with anti-discrimination laws, such as Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This compliance is essential for avoiding legal liability. So organizations should have these procedures in place to avoid legal liability. Accountability. The program holds harassers accountable for their actions, reinforcing the message that the harassment will not be tolerated. The consequences for harassment. When an internal program is effective, it leads to remedial action for the harasser up to termination. So we're going to have discipline be one of the penalties for the harassment, and it can even go as far as to terminate someone's employment. It just depends on how severe the harassment is. But if you are being investigated for sexual harassment, it is a serious thing, and it also it has consequences regarding your professional reputation. So no one wants to be accused of this. This is why you should not do the things that we discussed in earlier videos. Because when you, for example, ask someone out on dates, or God forbid you touch them at work, that's really inappropriate. If you do that, you can be brought up on these charges of sexual harassment, and then you've got that reputation, and that will follow you. So, word to the wise. Find out what sexual harassment is. Know what it is. Be on the right side of it. Don't do it. And that's my advice to people who could be potential harassers. And my advice to people who are being harassed is find out how to protect yourself. And the best way to protect yourself is to garner evidence of it and to try and register that complaint with an ethical person at the organization. You have to be careful. Not everybody understands these laws. Not everybody takes appropriate remedial actions. So if you have an ethical way to report it, you should do that. If you don't, it gets a little bit trickier. So we'll talk about that in later videos. Am Lee, your everyday light worker, hip hop litigator, signing off once again.